Welcome to Legends of Grayskull, the podcast that dives deep into the mythology of Masters of the Universe, with your hosts Matthew Dooch and Shawn Scavana. News, reviews, remasterings and more are just ahead on Legends of Grayskull.
Welcome to episode 79 of Legends of Grayskull, guys. Today we are going to finish up our review of the Netflix Master Universe Revelation Part 2. We're going to be talking about episode 5 today. We've already covered episodes 1 and 2 and episode 77, 3 and 4 and episode 78, and so today we're going to look at the final episode of this series. Now remember, make sure you watch the episode first, because we are not going to break it down beat by beat. We watched the episode, and now we're going to talk about it. So, and remember, all of these were recorded at the same time. We just broke it up to make it a little easier to enjoy in a podcast form. So, we're going to jump right back in here. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and enjoy. Wow. Whew. That was an episode.
Just a bit.
Wow.
Yeah. Just a bit.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack there. Wow.
And we're done.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning
Sign
in.
off. Thanks for tuning in. Good night. Don't forget to tip your waiters.
Well, first off, let's start with the battle there, because you brought it up at the end of the episode 4 talk. And it really did seem like just about all of that battle was in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. But yeah, it pretty much went that way. Oh, there was I don't even know where to begin dissecting this. It went very quickly. It was a very good episode. Don't get me wrong, guys. I really enjoyed it. It's just that is a lot. Tila.
Mm-hmm.
Tila takes the plunge. That's what we start off with. She decides she is ready. She's ready to give it all up. And we're going to be jumping all around this episode because these storylines pretty much intermingled. But let's talk about Tila and her ascension to Sorceress. I guess the frustrating part for me and why I'm having so much trouble starting this off is because there wasn't a lot. There wasn't as many answers as I was hoping for. You know,
Interesting.
We get right off the bat here. I mean, it's no. At the end of this episode, there is still no reason why Skeletor can't go back up to Adam, grab the power sword, and change back into Skelligod. You know what I mean? There's no. I mean, I just have to live with the fact that in this universe, anybody can pick up the Sword of Power and be transformed if they know the incantation. And I guess I was just, to the end here, I was holding out hope that there was some sort of loophole, some sort of check on that power. Same thing we get with Tila. She becomes a sorceress. She looks fabulous. Oh my God, that design, that blend of her, her tiara in the headdress and her Tila, armor, the warrior goddess armor, and the robes and the Zor motif. Wonderfully done. Wonderfully designed. Yeah. I actually think this is my favorite look for Tila in the series. And honestly, I want a third Tila in Masterverse now because I want this Tila.
Mm-hmm.
You know, her battle with Hevelin was amazing as well. But she and they said she has found a way to be the first sorceress that can retain her power outside of Grayskull, and there is no reason given for that. You know,
Well,
she makes the comment about, keeping the friends and that's the power and all this and that, but it's like, okay, so if Tila Na hadn't given up Tila and Duncan, she could have? You know what I mean? Like, is it really that simple? Like, you just choose not to?
here's the thing about that when I saw the episode, I automatically knew that was how they're going to pull it. And it's not because I read any spoilers or I saw any videos.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the writing style of how this works in today's era, where it's we'll make it work within, here's the new version, but we're also going to make all this other stuff wrap into it. So then that way it isn't going to be as tethered the way that it was when we were kids. Because that was one of my biggest complaints about the Sorceress originally anyway, was it was, to me, she really was just like pointless at times because she couldn't go out and do much. She was just Zor all the time. And I always hated that from a personal standpoint. As a kid, I was like, if the Sorceress could go out and do things, I'd actually really enjoy watching an episode like that. Never, she'd go out every now and then, like on Tila's Quest and all that stuff. But it was never in a way where, like, 2000X was the closest that I could think of where we got to that, where she fought Provis. And, it's like, it's the have your cake and eat it too of storytelling the way it's done nowadays. And the minute that it's like, okay, Tila's finally doing this, I'm like, there's no way she's going to be stuck in Grayskull forever. They're going to do it where she's going to say, this is how I'm doing it. And everybody's going to flinch and go, okay. And they just, they back away from her like this. And I wasn't surprised. And also the other thing.
I want them to do it. I don't want Tila to be stuck in Grayskull. I want her to find a way to break the cycle. But give me a reason how she was able to. You know what I mean? Like that speech about, I'm not going to give up my life just to become Sorceress of Grayskull. To me, that's not the loophole that's needed. You know what I mean? That's that. So if any of the previous Sorceress Eyes had just said, hey, I'm not giving up my friends and family, then they could have done it too? Like, give me a reason why Tila's the special one. Give me a reason why she can break the cycle.
I don't have a reason, but I just have it.
Neither do they.
Like, there is that deep down. It's just that's the way it works because there's always this tradition of we're breaking the cycle for the next generation because that's kind of the nature of the beast, and in our culture as well as in storytelling nowadays. And it's just, I guess that I just viewed it from a, hey, I figured that would happen. Even I was waiting for it, and it happened even in this one too, where she had that we have the power, and it's like this is going to be going forward. It's all going to be that, and honestly, it doesn't bother me because CGI He-Man already started the ball rolling with that, and I enjoy how that works. And she even says at the end, "No more secrets." So, who knows if we get a season 2? We might actually find out how she got the loophole to make that into her version of the Sorceress versus the traditional ones. Because it might be something, to me, it seems like something that Adam eventually would say. So how did you manage to do this? Because he does bring it up at the end.
Yeah.
Saying, so now you're a sorceress, but you can get out of Grayskull, so maybe you don't need me anymore and all that. And it could be interesting to examine it eventually.
Yeah, for me personally, that was always kind of my thing with because if the sorceress has access to this power and she can leave Grayskull, then really, why do you need He-Man? To me, that was the whole point, that the sorceress was that last line of defense. Like, no, you're not going to be caught. Grayskull isn't going to be caught off guard because we're going to have a protector that's here. You know what I mean? Like, regardless, and we'll have the champion to help the planet, but at the end of the day, we need someone right here. Like, this power cannot just be left unattended, and that was kind of the whole thing with the elders, right? To me, it's okay. We cannot just leave this someone get. It's that early mini comic thing. Like, Skeletor can just break in because no one happens to be home at the moment. So.
The other option with a story, though, is it could go that route where she learns this is why the sorceress was there all the time, and so it's like you could either tell it from we're going to take a different perspective. Here's traveling sorceress, or here's the homebound sorceress, and she's always there and tethered. And there is an element of Teela's character where, yes, she wants to do it on her own terms, and she is headstrong enough. But I'm always in that mentality of there is a certain amount of youth involved in that versus maturity involved in that. So having it where, she sees why that would be the case eventually, I think she would become her mother at some point down the line, after a couple years of realizing it might not be the best thing to leave Grayskull unattended for long periods if she goes on an adventure or something. So I agree completely with that. But I was not shocked for a second that the story went there for her, because she is Teela.
Yeah, I would just like a little bit of explanation. Just give me a reason. But no, it was good. It was good to see her finally embrace her destiny. She got a nice fight scene. We saw her change into her Zor Falcon form. That was really nicely done. Other than that, it was Orko coming back. What do you think?
I was surprised how much they did what I thought they'd do in that case.
Okay.
I was completely shocked. Like when we saw the scarf, or I don't even think that's technically a scarf. I almost felt like it was something else, but
it's like a cape at this point. It's
a cape, or like a standard or something.
Yeah,
it almost has that kind of a vibe. But I kept going, I bet he's gonna be white. I didn't think he'd be red again, like Orko red or whatever. Yeah. And here he was. He was like Gandalf the Gray.
It was exactly Gandalf the White. Yeah,
and
that's exactly what I thought too.
I was just sitting there going like, they fucking did that. It didn't bother me, but it was one of those, like back in July, I was like, I bet he'll be white the next time we see him, because it's going to show an ascendance of some sort, and there he is. And I liked it. I liked the look of him, and you notice he didn't mess up once. No. He had his shit together. I love that he even he turns around and he puts the hallway in there. Run through here, my friends, to safety and all that stuff. And then when you see him fighting Scareglow, I got such a kick out of the fact that they went back to the bubble trick he used on the first episode of the entire series, and this time it was effective in that way. But I gotta give it props though, because when I was a kid, one of my absolute favorite moments for Masters in general was still the 87 movie. Dolph Lundgren fighting through all the troops to get to the power sword in the throne room, and the music climax and all that, and he pulls the sword on. And it's like, this trumped that for me as one of the best save the day moments, because when he gets that sword away from Evelyn and she notices the sword's out of her hand, and it just all of a sudden, and Adam grabs it, and that is how you say that incantation, Chris Wood. That was one of my absolute favorite delivery. And when he said, "I have the power," it's like, man, I get chills thinking of how awesome that delivery was in that moment. The only thing about that transformation I wish they would have done was like the original one they did in the first episode, where they would have done inside the beam and him doing all the stuff to show everything building on him again. And instead they just had the beam and the silhouettes. Yeah.
Real quick on Orko before we get to He-Man.
Sure.
I have to apologize because Orko did actually die. They did kill him. I really thought that they were gonna say he just teleported away, you know, the whole the banishment spell, but no, he confirmed he died, but he was stuck in Subternia, I guess, because of him dying down there. And so when Evil Lynn rose the army of the dead, she rose all of the dead, which included him, because he was trapped down there. And I wondered what happened to Orko down there, because Scareglow is scared to shit of him. So I think it goes beyond even just the meeting that we saw, you know, when the whole team was down there. I think they've been battling since then. I think they've been locked in Subternia, Orko and Scareglow, because, you know, he even said, you know, you say a king's fear tastes the best. Well, what is it something about your fear, you know, being the king of the dead? And yeah, Scareglow's just like, oh crap.
Yeah, I really dug that whole. Again, you know, I look at that and I think to myself, I would have never paired Orko versus Scareglow in my entire life if I had to put my figures together. And this show has completely made me rethink that being fun, you know. But yeah, I'll say it too. I do apologize. I thought the same thing. I thought he just did a teleportation spell and got them out of there. And I actually was thrown back too, going like, they killed him? That sucks, you know? And then now it's like, well, I guess he's not dead, you know, obviously from how it ends, but there is that like, man, you know, there is a part of me now looking at Kevin Smith going, dude, you're just wiping the board for some of these characters. That's not cool, but
we'll come back to that at the end. But yeah, so I thought it was fitting that Orko was the one who gets the sword back for Adam.
Agreed.
That is pure filmation. That's pure vintage. That is look what I found. You know,
well, 2000X
even 2000X really went there with him being one of the original secret keepers. You know, he was that guy, and for him to be like, "Here you go, Adam." You know, it's like, yeah. This is home.
Exactly. And the other thing, too, I mean, how cool was it when it's Adam, Cringer, and Skeletor still versus Evil-Lyn and Transformed Beast-Man, and they turn around and Evil-Lyn is getting a run for her money by fighting Orko, and it's like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
To know Orko, it's like out of anybody to show up, Orko's got it covered. You know, I mean that was just cool. I really enjoyed that.
And then when Adam does transform, I agree. I think they needed a bigger transformation there, rather than just the wipe. I would have loved like a classic transformation too, like by the power of Grayskull, freaking the Jawbridge pops up behind him, and just a simple, because that's a quicker one, you know, I have the power, you know, and then even doing the old him pointing the sword at Battlecat and, you know, transforming him, and they still could have done what they wanted to, because I was taken by shock when He-Man also transforms Skeletor back into Skelegod. And I said at the moment, I said that's not a good idea.
Well, I like that he was even like, why did you do that to me? I wanted you to see what it's like to save the universe. I was like, you're gonna regret this in about another 5 minutes, probably.
Right. But yeah, that was a surprise to see He-Man, Battle Cat, and Skelly God. But again, great fight scene. All of them versus Battle Dog and Evelyn. You know, that's that was a good scene. And I like that Skeletor did you know, he did fight the good fight there. He got right with He-Man, and you know, and they gave it to Evelyn. So and you know, ending when that's when, you know, Sorceress Tila showed up, and her and Evelyn took their fight, and then once they're out of the picture, it's like then Skeletor's basically just like, well, all right, I guess I kill He-Man now. So
yeah,
it's the old curse you and your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Yeah, exactly. And I really, first off, I liked Evelyn doing the whole, well, I can win this because I can leave, you can't, and then boom, she's through the roof. Yeah. And I like that Tila has proven, oh, this isn't the same game. Right. And then on top of that, I love how like the lights are out in Grayskull, so it's very moody, and the atmosphere is dark, but you still see Skeletor and the glowing bits of him in that sequence. There's something about that I just enjoy how subdued the lighting is, but you still see him standing out against that darkness. And then plus on top of that, the let this be our final battle and all that. And so,
which I think he said at least twice in this series now.
I think didn't he say it actually in the first episode of the first part too?
I thought the very first episode he said it too.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Like, all right, Skeletor, you're being a little melodramatic now. Like we've had a few final battles now. Like, let's take it.
Which final battle is this? 52?
Right, let's take it down a notch there, Queen. All right.
Oh, Skelly.
He's very optimistic. He's like, yes, if I say this will be our final battle, then I will win, and this will be our final battle. But
because I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and gosh darn it,
He-Man hates me.
He-Man hates me. Yes.
And we get the reinforcement. Ram Man shot out of the Talon Fighter cannon. That was surprising.
Yeah.
I
never would have pictured, or at least not pictured, but heard Danny Trejo as the voice of Ram Man until I heard it on here. Definitely a casting that was. He was completely out of left field, but when I heard it in the show, I'm like, it actually doesn't sound bad. Because I kind of liked that they didn't go "Duh" and all that, because that was always, even as a kid, I didn't like it. It made the character just blah to me. But he does have this kind of like twinkle in his eye when he talks to He-Man in that moment. Your mom's looking for you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
mom's worried about you.
Yeah, your mom's. But I animation wise, I actually really enjoyed the way that they did the effect on his legs.
The springs,
because the springs. Yeah, it's like you see the air coming out, like the pistons working to get his legs to launch him out of there. I thought that was pretty sweet. Yeah. So.
And that led right into my favorite, hands down, favorite battle shot of this series, with He-Man just tearing ass through all those shadow beasts and winged creatures, and you've got all those camera spins and him jumping and leaping and running and flying and floating and landing on the windshield of the Talon Fighter, and like,
I love that moment. I absolutely Hi, Mom, can you get me down to the ground to salt and be home for dinner? I normally hate that, but the way they did it here made me just go, that's fun. I like that.
It gave you that chuckle, and it in the middle of everything, everything's gone to shit. The planet almost died, all this, but now it's like, okay, Adam's got the sword. He's He-Man. Mm-hmm. We can win this. Mm-hmm. That's what that point was for me. It was like, okay, guys, we've got this. We're back. Yep. We're equipping. We're having fun. Mm-hmm. We're not, yes, there's a lot of enemies. yes, we're seemingly outnumbered, but we're not. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think all of the heroic warriors felt that at that moment. It's like, you know, we've got our He-Man. You know, and they when he lands on the ground, they even say that He-Man, the cavalry's here. We've got this. You know, the royal guards rally around him. We get the great line from the trailer. You know, he leads them into battle, and like I said, just all the animation, the camera angles, and you watch He-Man during that battle, and he's got like we saw way back in episode 1, part 1. He's got that smirk, that glint, that I'm just a kid having fun out here. Like this is war, but hey, I'm He-Man. Don't worry, guys, we got this.
Well, when Ram Man gives him the hoverboard, and he's flying off on that, when he flies by the camera, you hear him actually laughing a little bit.
Yeah,
it's like he's back into the groove. He's gonna have a good time.
We're good. And I got my power sword. We're good.
Exactly, and it made me chuckle just hearing him chuckle, and it's like that little kid in me was just like, oh, just like Gorka said, oh, are you in trouble now? You know,
right?
And the other thing about that sequence, when I was a kid, Filmation kind of paled to me after a certain point, because like when I saw the intro to Thundercats, that was kinetic. That I was like, why can't we do this with He-Man? And when he does that landing and he goes head to head against all the Shadow Beasts, you can't tell me that wasn't the Thundercats intro.
Right.
They literally just like ripped that from Thundercats. It's like, you know, you're Chitara, you're Panthro, you're Tigra, you're everybody. You're just going to do everything. And even Battle Cat showing up and ripping into the freaking chest of one of the Shadow Beasts. It's like, have you ever thought you'd see the day that you'd see something like that? Probably not. That's crazy.
Yeah, and you know, like we saw in the trailer, but it was still great. You know, He-Man and Battle Cat launching into the air and slicing that dragon down, and as he does the swipe of the sword, it does the H green wipe. You know, like the old Filmation He-Man. You know, like that. And the badass He-Man lands on the ground and the dragon just explodes behind him. Like, goes right in that meme of you know, people standing in front of cool shit that they destroyed. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. And the For Eternia battle cry, and then what I love is in that moment with the dragon, you see the He-Man H come up, but you hear the wet sounds, knowing that he just slayed that thing.
Right.
You just hear this kind of noise. Yep. And it's like, oh, that thing is dead. That's all there is to it.
Oh my god, so good. So I'm gonna have to rewatch just that battle sequence.
It's worth it.
That was a work of art. Absolutely.
Fighty is definitely in Powerhouse's wheelhouse after that sequence for me.
Like I said, this whole second batch, the animation just got to the next level. Like the first half was good. This animation is great. I mean, they really are feeling these characters by the end of it. Everyone got some good moments. Andra had some good moments. Duncan, King Randor, like everybody held their own.
Andra did Iron Man 2. She had that moment where she used both of them and she just spun around really fast, like in Iron Man 2, where he does that. And he's like, I should have led with that. Yeah, it's kind of a one and done move, you know, and all that at the end when they're fighting in the kill box at the fair. And when she did that, I'm like,
2 once, and that was one too many. So.
Well, when they did that, I'm like, they just took that right out of Iron Man 2. I mean, it worked, and I like that Randor looks at her and he's like, she was a good hire.
Yeah. That was good. Good. Oh my god, that was great. Yeah,
and then Man-at-Arms doing the mace thing. I got everything I need. He just took his mace and walked off and just started beating the crap out of things.
It's old school, man. It's old school.
It is. I appreciated it. I appreciated that a lot, actually.
And then, of course, the final confrontation between He-Man and Skelly God. You know, he's, I will not be ignored.
Yeah.
Because he did. He-Man just took off. He's like, whatever, dude. I got to go help my friends. So
yeah.
and I liked He-Man just throwing Skeletor into the Dark Hemisphere. I
Mm-hmm.
was, we talked about it. I was worried about it. Everyone's got this, the villain has to die by the end of the movie, series, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the two tropes nowadays with superhero, heroic movies is they got to find out the secret identity and the villain has to die. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did the secret identity thing, which I think this series has handled that probably the best out of all the ones that have attempted to tackle it now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that they ended He-Man versus Skeletor with He-Man just throwing Skeletor in the good old-fashioned, we'll meet again.
Well, I even liked he said this isn't about us.
Right.
I like that line too because Skeletor really is hung up about this the entire time, and I liked it at the end. He-Man's just like, I'm here for a whole bunch of other reasons than just dealing with you every freaking day of my life.
Right.
I do this because I have to. I don't want to all the time, Skeletor.
Exactly. Yeah, Skeletor sees it as that power struggle. Either He-Man's in charge or I'm in charge. And He-Man's just like, dude, I'm just trying to stop you from taking everything over. Like, if you weren't here, I wouldn't be.
Exactly.
Whereas on the opposite side, if He-Man wasn't there, Skeletor would absolutely be there, controlling everything. So,
yeah.
No, I like that. I like that they resisted that because I'm sure that was a temptation. I'm sure there's a draft somewhere where Skeletor dies, and I'm glad that they didn't go there.
Me too.
I do have to say though, I am saddened as I always am when they don't take a chance to set some things right. They did, when their Tila beats Evelyn, and they end up sending the army of the dead back, and I like that Evelyn stopped Orko from going.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the epilogue, and we'll just deal with Evelyn's epilogue right now, she goes to Tralla, but Orko's not with her. So did she really? Did they really? We don't see Orko after that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So did she really? Did they really save him or not? You know what I mean?
I took it that he that ending
that they stopped him
me.
from go. I took it as they stopped him from going back with the dead.
Yeah,
they kept him in the living, but then we don't see him again. So that's the only part that confused me. Like, well, why wouldn't he have either rejoined the palace or gone with Linda Tralla? And then she had that whole thing with the wand too. So I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be like she took him in the wand like Skeletor did, and she like planted him in Tralla. That's kind of.
I feel like that was just her putting that there because she's giving up on the stuff that she had become accustomed to and is starting a new,
it could go.
Like starting fresh. Because I feel like that's a little too much putting everything together. I feel like I'd have to rewatch the palace sequences, but I want to say they kept Orko and he's not going to be dead anymore. But I don't remember seeing him in the palace because that whole sequence is really focused on Andra and Tila and Duncan, really.
Right.
And actually, I do like the moment between Tila and Adam after that moment, which is quite nice.
Yeah, so. I loved it too. Don't get me wrong. It was great. You referred to it earlier where, Adam's like, well, you're not even going to need me. And she's like, no, I'm always going to need you. And they hold hands and everything. I wish they'd gone for it. I wish they had kissed.
I
can't believe they got that close and they didn't go for it.
I agree to an extent, but here's the thing. I feel like it's a step in that direction more than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Because Tila always saw Adam a certain way until now.
Right.
And that moment, I absolutely love that moment where he's like, I am Adam, Prince of Eternia,
right,
and my hero.
Right.
The thing about that I love is Tila wouldn't have done that until this story.
Right.
And so she's seeing him in a whole new way, and it does open that door that the romantic angle now, she's going to see it's always been Adam. She's transplanting in her head, transposing. It's not He-Man, it's Adam, really. And I think it's going to lead to that if they do a second season finally. But that was.
But my thing is,
it's like it just shows he's not incapable anymore. He's not that guy. So she views him in a better way, and the romantic angle, I think, is definitely there.
She can give into it her feelings for him. She doesn't have to worry about he's a screw up though. He's gonna disappoint me. It's go in Filmation, Pawns of the Game Master. Tila says, if only I could have someone as brave as He-Man, but as funny as Adam. And it's hey, what's up? But I guess my thing is, and I agree, if we get a second season, I think that's where they'll explore that more. But a second season isn't guaranteed. So to me, I'm like, you know what? You have your shot. You have your 10 episodes. Just do it. That's the one moment that I'm like, oh, we were right there, and I got my Tila Sorceress moment. I got my Randor Adam moment. But I'm like, I guess that's my thing. I'm just like, nothing is guaranteed for the future, so just take these moments when you can. And I really felt like that would have been a good one. But I mean, the scene was still great. I can lament the fact that they pulled a punch. All right,
you can, but I still feel like that moment wasn't quite. There needs to be something else to make that moment work better, because I feel like that would have been. It's a little too overreaching for where they are at that point still, because they're both. He's acclimating to being alive again after X amount of years, and his whole family situation getting sorted. They're bringing back Orko from the dead, which thanks Kevin Smith. Now that I know that you did that, that's ruffling the feathers as much as Fisto. And she's acclimating to all the stuff she's going through and all that. So there is that element of I'm actually excited if there's more after this to see what they do with their relationship, because typically she'd be one of his first people to be right there with him if he had an adventure. So here we have her now that she's just as capable and powered as him in some ways, because she's going toe to toe with Evil Lynn, as we've seen, and she was holding her own for quite a lot of it. So it's like, okay, it's like, you want to talk power couple? There you go. You got your power couple, and let's watch them go into it. And then maybe within that whole story, you'll end up getting your payoff that way, because you got to leave somebody wanting more. In your case, that's definitely what you're wanting more of. There you go.
And if that happens, I'll be ecstatic, and I'll say, forget what I said here. But if we never get anything beyond that point, I'll be guys, you were right there. So, but what I was going into was, so we fixed Orko, we got to a good spot with them. But, Preternia, Fisto and Clamp Champ, even just the idea of their souls. I mean, what happened to them? That's one where I really think that they should have taken a beat to right that wrong. Because as it stands now, there's no reward for a good life lived.
See, I'm the other shoe. I actually like that is a dangling thread now because, again, that at least has a little bit of something going forward to go, well, how do you handle that? How do you handle the fact that there is a heaven and it burned to the ground?
Yeah.
Is that something that Tila can fix? Or if she can't fix it, since, being the sorceress, maybe they go on a quest to try and get Clamp Champ and Fisto back. And, it's the whole trying to restore that, as in Preternia or something. Granted, that to me is almost the similar quest as what we just went on. I hope they don't do it in the same fashion. But that was definitely so what happens with that? Are we completely done with King Grayskull? Is Wondar and Vikor they're gone?
All that they're Moss Man. I mean, all
Moss
of them.
Man,
Like,
exactly.
And like I said, all the champions from here on out are just dirt. They just, I mean, that's, I don't know, just kind of a somber thing to end on. And yeah, they could go on they could go on a quest later to try and fix that, but I also don't see that fitting in nicely anywhere.
No.
Unless you just do a whole series dedicated to that, but then it, like you said, it's lather, rinse, repeat. We're going on a quest to restore something. We just did that. To me, I think it would have been better just as, like, for Evelyn, like, as she's powering down to, like, her last thing is to undo what she did. Like, to really repent.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing, really, with Evelyn. Hers was probably the epilogue I'm most upset about. I'm like, so after all the shit she did, they just let her walk?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. That just sat wrong with me. Like, she's just free to leave and go to Trala and just start a new life after she, like you said, she burned heaven to the fucking ground. I don't know. I think she deserved a little more punishment there. I mean, they didn't even take her wand away. They let her go with it.
The one thing that was brought up before the show aired, and it was something that Kevin Smith actually said in interviews, was some of this is going to deal with some darker topics or some, like more adult topics like abuse. And it was something that turned into fodder for the clickbait people, but it really was. It was something that was brought up, and I actually thought it was well done the way they did it, because Evelyn, throughout the second part of this series, and even the first part for somewhat, but they really put it under the microscope in some ways, and they examined it a lot with Man-at-Arms and Beast Man. They kept on doing the whole, people are laughing at you. You think you're powerful, but really, we feel bad for you. And talking about, like, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, and all this, the stuff that Skeletor has always put her through, and she just always took it, figuring they're going to do this eventually. And when we get to that point, she finds out, it's only about He-Man and the sword. There's nothing I'm gaining out of this relationship other than it's always going to be about this, and I'm second or third rate. And I feel like them addressing that in this almost I hate to say, but it almost gives her the get out of jail free card in some respects, because you could burn heaven down and that doesn't affect real live people, versus it affects dead people who are dead and just dying a second time. And I agree with you, though. Like, her wand should not have gone with her. That should have been kept in Grayskull or something. It should have been kept in the palace, even in like if they have like a Thor or a Odin chamber of all their stuff, they keep it somewhere where it's not with her. But there is a part where it's like she didn't do enough to be like Skelegod kind of stuff, the way that he was doing things. So there is that whole, which one did the worst stuff in the amount of time they had that, I guess.
Well, but that's the thing too. But with Skelegod, like, Skeletor technically got away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, at the end of it, they had Evelyn.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt she should have had some sort of comeuppance. You know what I mean?
Well, she relinquished the power, which is something that
She did.
She had to seduce Skeletor to get him to do that, which I still think is one of the funniest damn parts of this show. And she relinquishes the power, and therefore, in the way that if it was me being Teela, I'd look at that as, if you're willing to give that up, that means it's a step in the right direction, because at least you're not holding on to it and expecting to keep moving forward with what you're doing. And she can't reclaim that unless if she gets the power sword again, which I completely agree with you. That does really screw over a lot of the story, because I'm not a fan personally. Like I said, they said it in the first episode of part 2. Adam was the spark. So how the hell can these people keep on coming to the sword and just doing it if he isn't involved in that incantation? And it is troublesome from the storytelling.
That's another thing I don't like, that the fact that we never really explained how that happened or why that happened or why that was possible. Now you're just left with anybody can do this. And especially with the secret being out, that's dangerous. I'd be really curious how they handle that if we keep going, because that's a can of worms. It absolutely is. Trying to think if there's any. I think those were the big ones for me. Like I said, I don't mind a few dangling threads to be resolved, but those ones were kind of the ones for me that were like, no, you guys really should have taken a minute to do something with this. How about you? Anything nagging at you as we wrap up?
Not in the way that you were thinking of it, to be honest, because like the evil in one, like my argument, I'm like, well, she gave up the power, I'd have to say, for me, the one that actually is haunting me is the ending.
Oh yeah, there's no. I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to do anything else before we. That's fine. Like I wanted to end on that.
There is no freaking way that doesn't say they have something in their back pocket going forward, because that was pretty darn spooky as far as I'm concerned. I never thought, number one, I never thought there would be a technological cult on Eternia, so that automatically is like, that's interesting. And then to end it on that note in particular.
And I really thought that, well, like I said, I thought we were done with Triclops. I did not think that there was, but it was very, very planned that he not show back up, because as we find out, once Skeletor gets the power knocked out of him and he goes back, he goes back to Snake Mountain, and he is just ripping it apart. He's take that Triclops. If you'd been there to help me, I would have won, and blah blah. You know what I mean? He's like, it's classic Skeletor. It's everybody else's fault. But yeah, they and you know what? As soon as they're like, oh well, we worship Motherboard now, and all this and that. As soon as Skeletor looked at it, the first thing I thought of is, holy shit, they're going to do New Adventures Skeletor. I really thought that he was gonna motherboard it, drink it, and become that cyborg New Adventures Skeletor. Did your mind go there, or is that just me?
I literally thought he was going to blow it up in front of them, and they were going to cower in front of him and be like, I'm back. I could have heard Mark Hamill, honey, I'm home, or something like that, and at least end it that he's back in Snake Mountain and he'll cause trouble another day. Did not see where they went with this at all coming. That's just where I was when I saw it.
Like I said, once he turned his attention to it, my thought was, hey, we're gonna go New Adventures Skeletor. They still could, but they didn't. I mean,
no.
But then when it opens up and that robot came out of it, then I was like, okay, what the hell is going on here? And and she's almost like a sorceress robot. She's got the, it was weird because obviously the bird is Screech-like, but Skeletor didn't seem to recognize it, And then once that robot came out and she had the wings and even the Screech piece kind of became her headdress, I'm like, I was really confused. I'm like, where are they going with this? And I did not expect the Horde symbol to pop up. That did not even enter my mind as, oh, this is a Horde device. Even though the Horde, especially Filmation, were always the technological guys, just my mind did not go there.
Neither did mine. And the minute it transforms into, I almost look at it as like this like demonic angel looking thing. Exactly. That's where my mind went the most. And I'm like, okay, this is starting to borderline into like Bonnie Tyler music videos for me. What the fuck is happening? And then when it went into like, I actually felt bad for Skeletor. I was like, oh my! Yeah. But then it's almost that whole thing of Evelyn talking about how he used her and he was like a tick inside of her, So it's like I'm like, well, this is how it feels, dude. Like this is going to prison, and the big man named Tiny now is saying, "Hey, you dropped your soap." It felt a little like that in like a payback to him. But then on top of it, it's just like, that was just haunting to see that as the ending of this series compared to, I thought it would just end with like fireworks over the royal palace and everybody's happy, And kudos to them for going there because it does leave a talking point.
Do you think that because Skeletor was terrified the minute that thing opened up? Do you think he recognized it as a Horde thing, and he's like, oh shit, because we know even in this timeline he worked for the Horde and he betrayed them. So I'm thinking, because he got freaked out immediately, even before the thing started attaching the tubes to him. He got freaked out immediately.
I feel like when he looked at it, did he say it can't be or something? I could have sworn he said something like that.
When it opened, he said something like that.
It would not surprise me if he knew what this was, and it was like the fact that it's something transforming to me automatically makes it like this is foreign to me in Masters, even though we had like the rock people, because it wasn't a lot that transformed other than Modulok and all that. So it's like, okay, but I feel like he's probably seen it, or it's similar to something he's seen previously. Right. And now it's like, oh, it was crap.
The Horde when it opened.
So yeah, and that's going to be interesting to me because that's like, okay, if that's something we've never seen before, but it's apparently a Horde thing, what are they going to throw at us that we aren't going to know about? That's this version of the Horde going into a possible season 2.
So this version of the Horde is obviously going to follow in Filmation's footsteps. They're going to be technological. We're leaning into the drag store, the mosquito, or that end of the Horde, and so really that techno cult is the Horde at this point. Then Hordex already got his little sleeper cell on Eternia.
I actually like that quite a lot. It's got this kind of like bioterror vibe about it. Like, obviously it's not biological, but the techno terror vibe of it that's biological at the same time. Because that was one of those stories. Exactly, and it's like, okay, that's another neat little nod to the past of Masters, but it also is like, that's pretty nuts, and that's how they're probably circumventing, because it was like Mantenna and Leech. Are those like Filmation things where they're not going to be able to touch them?
Oh no, they can. As long as there's a toy, they're fine.
We'll see. All right,
so they'll be able to do. They'll be able to do all the core Horde members. Where we'll run into problem is actually like Catra. Well, even Catra should be all right because she had a She-Ra toy. You're looking at like Octavia, Voltac, Shadow Weaver was a big problem for a long time. That seems to be straightened out. But yeah, the Filmation only characters. Yeah.
that I think is they're bypassing that to be Shadow Weaver now. Then if they go there, because the whole thing with his daughter, if they still stick with that,
I feel like this show, and I said it because we already covered the Skeletor issue of that prequel comic in episode something. Probably in the 60s somewhere.
Something dark side, something. Yeah.
But I said to me, and I'm holding to it, once Skeletor has the power, if the first thing he doesn't do is resurrect his dead wife, then that whole backstory is bullshit. And the first thing Skeletor did when he got the power was look into the universe and try and kill He-Man. Okay, if you're really after this power, because that was the whole thing, right? He's after his power because he just wants to bring his family back and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, dude, you had that power for days and you didn't even make an attempt. So I'm saying that whole backstory, and not necessarily the whole, because I even said then, there's probably bits of truth in there. But that I'm doing it for my dead wife, bullshit.
Yeah, and that automatically makes me want to just throw that comic out the window, because that literally felt like, why did they even bother with that? The only reason I could see it being something now is if it comes into play that way, where then he finds out, oh, now his daughter is the right hand of Hordak, and she's like the new Shadow Weaver, even though they can't use the name probably.
And even then it's, okay, I said it when, we found when Evil Lyn first became Hevelyn. It's like, okay, the Orlax came from Primaria because Hevelyn destroyed their world and he was trying to warn them, but then she never does. The only thing she destroys is Preternia.
Yep.
So, well, like, what are we doing here? Is he from an alternate reality? Like, I don't. It just it's like it just muddies it. Yeah, because again, it's one of those things there's no clear answer to.
This is why, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to belittle anybody who worked on the comic books at all, because there are definitely contributions to it that I like. I still enjoy Mindy Lee's art, for instance.
Oh, absolutely.
But this is part of why, when it comes to Masters of the Universe in comic form, I'm typically not as excited to read it as I would if it was something else, because I always feel like just when I almost think it's going to work or they're going to get it, it doesn't reach the level that it's like, just give it that extra little nudge to get it up there, and it never manages to do it. And this is another case in point of that. And it really is. It makes me just sit there and go, why did I read these? Because there's very little that tied into that. And the stuff that did was stuff that even my wife tonight was like, did I hear you guys talking about cannibalism? I go, yeah, it makes no sense in Masters of the Universe. I don't know why they went there. But that's the stuff that stuck.
Yeah.
And the stuff that actually made sense, that I was like hoping to see payoff, nothing was covered. It felt like that was an afterthought of a storyline.
It didn't gel. It didn't connect.
No.
It raises more questions about how they fit together than it does supplement the story, which is what it should have done.
Agreed. Yeah.
So that was kind of disappointing. And don't get me wrong, the episode was great. I can't stress that enough. I know we're getting bogged down here towards the end.
Yeah.
But the episode was great. That teaser for the Horde, and I still believe, because it ends with Skeletor being pumped full of the motherboard technovirus. And I really do believe that if we see a season 2 and they explore this, that we will be seeing a cyborg New Adventures-esque Skeletor. I mean, I just think that you're making Skeletor technological. That's where you go with it, in my opinion. Real quick, I did pull it up on my phone. It probably won't show up, but Orko is nope, it started playing again. Orko is standing in the crowd shot. You can see him at the Royal Palace.
Okay. There you go.
There we go.
So he is alive still.
He is. He's standing up towards the foreground. I actually picked up better over here. He's on the side of the viewer, or on the attendant. I don't know. He's on the side of the guests rather than on the side of the royal family, but he is floating.
Mm-hmm.
So, my apologies. Orko is there. I just missed him the first go with those new white robes in the palace throne room being predominantly white. So, yeah, that was a good episode. That was good. I love that Tila design. I keep going back to Sorceress Tila. God, she is a beautiful design, and I want to see more. I want to see more. I want to see new Adventure Skeletor pop up. I want to see the Horde come. I want to see He-Man and Sorceress Tila really go to town on some enemies, like because that is one thing they did do the final hour, it's do or die. Oh, there's Sorceress Tila. All right, we got this. So same with He-Man, really. Although I didn't, with Adam being there throughout these 5 episodes, to me that is He-Man. So I didn't feel that absence as I did during the first 5. You know what I mean? But yeah, overall, it was a great wrap up to me.
It makes me still sad that Netflix decided to do part 1, part 2, because if they would have just done this one-stop shop, I don't think many people would have had much to say. I've seen, I haven't seen anybody really say that the part 2 underwhelmed them or didn't work for them. I've seen a lot of people really, really enjoying this today out of the posts I've seen so far. And I would have lost my mind watching the last 5 episodes of this in July with my kids. I would. Wow. I mean, just to see Adam get the sword back after all the stuff,
that whole
and you get that transformation, I would. My kids would have lost their minds watching it with me. And
no, it definitely. Are you tempted to go back and watch it all the way through now? 1 through 10?
I'm debating doing it, but I don't see my kids doing it. Like tonight they didn't even get through the last 2 episodes, so I was like, all right, I'll just do them myself. It's no problem.
No, I'm just curious, because I know you didn't revisit them before we started. But I really think, having watched the others, yesterday and then this morning, it really, you really get the feel for that full arc, I guess. I guess is what I'm saying. And I think now that this second part, like you said, the people are going to look at it in a different light, having the full story. This was obviously intended to be an arc, and it left us hanging for many months, but it is complete now, and it is glorious.
Yeah, and in the second part, even though we got traditional He-Man, classic He-Man in the final episode, which I know there were people that were having, if that's all we're gonna get, but it really didn't feel like that was it, because this last 5 episodes, honestly, they felt like a whole movie. Yeah, I know it's about the same running time as a movie, but it really felt like it was a movie. And by the time you get to that ending, you're ready for it. And it does not disappoint. So, yeah.
So, and wrapping up here, so in our character hopes, wants, speculation, I got a whopping 0. And you take that win home with your whopping 1.
1, yeah.
I can't believe Manny Faces or Mechanic. I cannot believe. And too bad in Cyclone, really. I cannot believe those 4 were not anywhere in it. But hopefully we'll get season 2 and we'll get to explore some more people. And hopefully a little more in depth. Real quick here, because it was fun. It was fun last time. So, out of the 5 episodes, if you want to do a complete ranking, go for it. But or if nothing else, what was your favorite out of these 5 episodes?
I would say my favorite's the 5th one. because that fight is everything I've always wanted to see in Masters. So yeah, number 5 got to be my favorite.
Yeah, I think it's got to be for me too. It's just
all the payoffs.
Adam getting the sword back, Orko, Tila. Yeah, yeah. I've got to agree.
And I put that as my favorite of the entire show to date as well. Like,
yeah.
Like first episode, I still like that for the feeling of the vintage, and I do love the freaking Savage He-Man episode. That was so fun. Too. Yep. So,
what a great series! What a great end.
They stuck it. I mean, with even the little, bits and stuff we talked about, they stuck the landing, and I felt like they didn't do anything to mess it up really badly. They did enough to make me go, I need season 2 because I got to see how this whole Skeletor story is going to work out now. And like you said, Tila and He-Man going into battle as Sorceress and Champion of Eternia. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
How cool is that?
Their blooming relationship, the threat of the Horde. I guess my only thing is, because I got to end on a downer, because apparently that's just who I am now.
You've been hanging out with me too much.
Well, it's fun because you brought up Hagar and Voltron. We brought up Thanos throughout here. Evelyn was the same thing. It's Eternity War. All of these things are building off. We're gonna wipe out life.
Yep.
That's always the go-to now. And it's like, it worked here. We did it. Don't keep falling into that same trap, though, if we do go to a season 2. I don't want to see the Horde come in and the Horde be like, okay, now we're going to wipe out all life. She-Ra and the Princess of Power did the same thing. We're just going to wipe out everything. And it's like, yeah, we do that. We did it. Okay, it's Tuesday again. We're wiping out life again. So, and I, especially with the way they've set up Motherboard and that turned out to be the Horde, I think it'll be more the assimilation, probably more of a Borg type storyline, which I'm good with. But I guess that's my only thing. It's like, it's so easy nowadays to go to that, let's wipe out everything. And I just hope they really think hard. If they're going to come back with a season 2, make sure you have a different story. Don't have them restoring Preternia, on the quest to restore. We did that. Don't do the Horde's going to wipe out life. We did that. Keep it fresh, keep it new. You guys kept me guessing. You had surprises for me. And I really enjoyed that and appreciated that. And I would love to thank everybody who worked on this show for delivering an amazing experience, from the voice actors to the writers to the directors to the producers, to Netflix for putting it out. But just careful, guys, because it's easy to fall into these same cycles.
Yeah, and I mean, adding to that real quick is, my issue with this still is the fact that this feels like an ending of a show that I never got the beginning of. Yeah. So I almost feel like, going forward, I'm willing to accept that, but I also, you got to stick to the rules you created here. You maybe have to explain some of the rules a little bit better that you created. And I mean, I know in interviews, Kevin Smith would said, like, the initial pitch was calling it the end of the universe.
Yeah.
And now that we see what it was, it's like, yeah, it is the typical trope of, there's a ton of stories that have already done that. In the case of Masters, I feel like you have to go there eventually because it's Masters of the Universe, but they've gone there. Let's do some other stuff now. Like, I completely agree with that, because it's been done to death after 20 years of storytelling the way we've been having it.
Right. I love it. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in with us. Thanks for going on this journey. It's been a great epic. I can't wait to watch the whole series again, honestly, and see what I missed the first time around and appreciate it more. I mean, that's the other thing that hit me watching the first 5 again. Every time I watch them, I enjoy them more. Even the episodes that I thought were slow at first, they're better on rewatch. So, and now with the whole series done, I really think the saga holds up. So, thanks for tuning in with us, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please support us by subscribing to the channel. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you got an extra buck you want to throw our way as a little thank you, we'd appreciate it. Help keep the show running. Visit the link down below at Patreon. If you want more Masters of the Universe Revelation, let Netflix know. You know how you let them know? Watch it. Watch it a lot. Watch it frequently. Watch it on different accounts. If you and your buddies got together to watch it today, make sure you guys go home and watch on your own accounts, because that's what matters to Netflix is the views. Mm-hmm. You can also campaign to them, hashtag more Motu. I'm sure we'll be flying here. Let your voices be heard. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of the episodes. If you agreed with us, if you disagreed with us, if you have some other takes on it, let us know. If we got some stuff wrong, like Orko not being in that final palace shot, throw it down there. Let us know. You can comment down below. You can find either me or Shawn on Facebook, or you can email logpod85@gmail.com. We're always happy to hear from you guys, and until next time.
Until next time.
Go watch some Netflix.
Oh, come on. Ah, rock! Oh, bear. Oh, bear. Oh!